On today's show, we take the Athletics front office confidence survey and determine our satisfaction level with Brad Treliving and company here in Toronto. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. What's happening, Dave? How are you feeling on a Wednesday?
Feeling pretty decent.
So let's just get right into it, because this always turns out to be a rather long episode whenever we do this. And this is probably the third or fourth year in a row that we've done this survey live on the podcast for everyone to know how we feel about the Maple Leafs front office. And I'm, of course, referring to the annual front office survey, which is handed out by The Athletic, or at least it allows the fans to do a survey of really any front office, actually. But we are going to focus on the Maple Leafs. Obviously, we are the Locked On Leafs podcast, and it's essentially, going to go ahead and it's going to ask us our thoughts on, the free agent or on the Maple Leafs front office, on their roster building capabilities, their cap management, how they are at trading, free agency, drafting, and developing. And essentially, we got to go through and come up with our ratings for each of those categories and explain our reasoning why. So we're going to do that on today's show. And before we get into today's or this year's results, before we do the survey, do you recall what the Maple Leafs were given last year, where they ranked last year in the competence rankings survey?
They didn't get a good rating. It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
It was almost at the bottom, but it wasn't quite the dead last.
Yeah, 30th. It ranked 30th among 32 NHL front offices. And again, these are fan-based surveys. And the fans ranked them 30th based on the grades that they were given by anyone who did the Athletic did this survey. So it's time for us to do it this year. I would imagine that there'll be far more positives than last season. I think the Maple Leafs should see a healthy rise from 30th when these findings get released, usually in about a week or so.
Yeah, I'm hoping so, because in some ways I can understand the skepticism from some fans.
I feel more confident. I feel pretty confident in where
they should,
in what Brad Treliving has done at the very least, and the drafting and developing of players, and the fact that they are managing the cap a lot better than they did in previous seasons. I personally feel better about the Maple Leafs. I would imagine that'll reflect in this survey as well.
I'm hoping so, because I understand that people never are going to give Leafs fans any, or the Leafs team, any credit or any of their flowers. So I do appreciate that they don't just take what other fan bases are going to say, because hate to say it, but they don't usually give the Leafs.
Well, funny enough, I'm looking at it last year. The Leafs fan base was more critical on the team than the public was. Like last season, I'd taken a look. The fan base gave them 4 Ds. They got a D rating in general. They were given a D rating, and the public gave them a D plus rating. just giving them a little bit better in every category, essentially, than what the fan base gave them. So the public seems to be a little bit more, or at least last year, liked what the Leafs were doing and what Brad Treliving was doing more than the fan base. But I can't help but think that was just salty. They were just salty over what had happened after the Game 7 loss to the Boston Bruins once again, leading to the firing of Sheldon Keefe. They got a new coach now. They got a new identity. They got a new structure, and they're moving forward as a different team this year. So why don't we dive into our confidence rankings, our confidence survey when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So while Dave's kind of pulling up the survey here, just a reminder that you can go do it yourself as well on the Athletic. Just go check it out. I think Dom Lucian technically has the story posted, and then you can go and click the link and take the survey yourself. So let's start. You get from 1 to 5. You get to give a rating here on all the categories. So 1 being not at all confident, 5 being very confident in the Maple Leafs front office in each of these categories. So again, the categories are roster building, cap management. Just continue to scroll so I can kind of see what all the categories are here. Here, Dave. Trading, drafting, and developing, free agency, vision with the vision team, and then there's a final overarching question about how your confidence in the team's front office has changed year to year. So we'll definitely go through all of these over the course of the episode. So we'll start with roster building. 1 to 5, Dave. Where's your confidence level in this team's roster building right now?
I would be kind of like in the 4 range.
Okay.
I feel like there aren't as many holes on this lab except for one, kind of the Mitch Marner replacement. I don't think they really have, like, we can't say for sure who that's going to be, which is why I could be convinced to be in like the 3-4 range for this one. Like, I think they've done some good things. I think they've built out their depth better. I think the blue line's still pretty solid. The goaltending we know is in good shape, but the forward group, especially up top, just feels like not quite as solidified.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 4 as well. So I think we can lock in a 4 and we can both agree there. And for me, like I like the identity of what they're building here. I think there's a far more clear identity of the type of team, the style of play that they want. And I think the players that they did get this offseason definitely reflect that, more of a Berube style game. But that was more so the guys who they added in the bottom 6. There's still a hole in the top 6, and you mentioned it, Mitch Marner. They brought in Matias Michelli. They'll probably give Nick Robertson an opportunity in the top 6. Max Domi will be given an opportunity. Easton Cowan will be given an opportunity. And maybe there's a surprise of some kind that kind of gets a shot up in the top 6 throughout camp. But there's just, it's not completely a 5 because there's still a pretty big glaring hole. And when the problem in the playoffs was goal scoring and you don't really add many goal scorers to the mix, yeah, it's going to be tough to get a 5. But I still like the direction and how they've built the roster moving forward. So I think a 4 is very appropriate.
I do too.
Okay. Cap management. Go ahead, Dave.
I think they've done a lot better at this. I think this is the one year. This is really the one year that the Leafs are going into the season, and I can't say that they've messed up their cap because they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've got cap money. We're not worrying about playing this roster shorthanded. They actually have a surplus at forward, so their cap can go down even more. Like I think, yeah, are they still a little I think it's like a 4 or 5 range for me. Like,
you want to go 5? You're that confident? Like, you're very confident in Brad Treliving's cap management skills.
I think he's realized after his first 2 years that, okay, we just, like, as much as we want to have a Mitch Marner, as much as we want to be paying all these guys a lot of money, oh, we could have given John Tavares more, but our cap structure dictates we need to be able to have a little bit more flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like he's done a better job. Now, Mitch Marner leaving does certainly help with that, and things may have been different had Mitch Marner decided he didn't want to leave and he wanted to stay. But he took the money and he didn't he didn't go out and make brutal deals. He made sure that going forward, this team has a lot of cap flexibility in what they want to do.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think I'd probably go the 4. I go the 4 as well. Just for me, I guess, the only thing that's precluding me from going to a 5 is the fact that, like, he did give Max Domi that contract, technically did sign David Camp to that contract.
True.
There's a couple of deals here that I get. Those are really the only 2, actually. It's just like, he's just not batting 1,000. You know what I mean? Not batting 1,000 in order to get a 5 for me. But there are some great deals that the Maple Leafs and Brad Treliving, this front office, have been able to get signed. Like, obviously, getting Matthew Nyes signed to that long-term extension, that was big. And signed to a number that will work moving forward was big, right? Tavares getting that contract done for $4.38 million for the next 4 years. It's a great deal. That's a great deal. And that's how you manage your cap. You get a guy who's worth, $6-7 million bucks. You get him for $4.4 million. Yeah, you're gonna get some love there. So I guess there are a number of deals that are considered very good, I would say, for the Maple Leafs. The way that he was able to get Scott Laughton and Brandon Carlo, when he managed the cap there by getting both of the teams that traded him to retain some money on those contracts, not just for last year, but for this season as well, to give them as much possible cap space as they could have. And they're going to be able to accrue cap space for the first time in forever, probably. I'm almost talking myself into a 5, actually. I'm almost doing it. Do you want to give them a 5? Like, now that I'm really kind of thinking about it, there's only one bad contract on this Leafs team. Even Domi's not horrendous. But there's only one bad contract that's been handed out by this Maple Leafs team. They've done a pretty good job of navigating, their newfound cap, I suppose, this offseason. And they didn't go and hand it out to guys willy-nilly and give away a lot of that cap space for nothing. They still did a very good job. Getting McCabe signed to that extension was quality too, at $4.5 million over the next 5 years. So I'm good with a 5 on their cap management, actually. Boom. Done. All right. Congratulations. I think it's the first time we've given it a 5 in like the 4 years that we've done this show. All right, we'll take a quick break. Let's come back. We'll get to the drafting and developing of the Maple Leafs front office. That's next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. You like Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills? What about Joe Burrow, the Cincinnati Bengals? Go make a bet right now on FanDuel. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only, August 26th on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you, as we are each and every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, all summer long. And then we get back to 5 days a week starting up in September when training camps roll around here very soon. Actually, we're 5-6 weeks away from training camps kicking off in Toronto. So not too long before we're back to daily coverage here of your Toronto Maple Leafs. But in the meantime, we continue our front office confidence ranking survey via The Athletic. We've already taken a look at a couple of scenarios for the Maple Leafs. And up next, I think we're taking a look at the draft and develop stage of Toronto. So drafting and developing on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not all confident, 5 being very confident. Where are you at with the Maple Leafs when it comes to drafting and developing, Dave?
I'm at a 3.
Okay, sell me on it. Sell me on it.
Like, we're starting to see things improve a bit. We're starting to see more of a vision, I think, in what they want to do with Brad Treliving. The contrast, the big difference between Treliving and drafting and developing versus Kyle Dubas. It's not really the drafting part. We know that they've drafted players who bring intrigue, but it's the development stage. It's getting them to the NHL.
Yeah.
Matthew Nyes, that worked out.
Did they develop Matthew Nyes, or did Minnesota develop Matthew Nyes?
Well, he would have had to have appeared at some of their development camps, right?
That's fair.
But yeah, the majority of his minor league, in terms of actually playing games, Minnesota played a big part of that. I do think though, like Easton Cowan, if he's able to crack the roster at some point this year, that right there is probably one of your bigger drafting and developing successes too. But like, they just haven't found it outside of that first and even second round. Like Fraser Minton, second round pick. That's another one there where I can see where the drafting and developing has gone, in a positive way. Grabankin was another one, but like, I just kind of feel like you look at how many players that you've had with the Marlies that were draft picks that didn't even get. I'm not even talking about them being any everyday players, just even getting a call up. William Villeneuve, haven't really heard much from him, right? Roni Hirvonen, never even got close.
Yeah,
Topi Niemela,
he's overseas now. Both
right? Topi Niemela, he's gone too. There's just a lot of that. I feel like has kind of hasn't. I'm not satisfied enough with what they've done.
I think I saw Mikko Kokkonen signed in the SHL.
There's
earlier
another
today,
one. Mikko
too.
Kokkonen
Yeah.
also gone.
Yeah. Honestly, like draft and develop, I'm gonna give him a 2. I think a 2. Like, there's the odd success story. Matthew Nyes, late second round pick. Easton Cowan has turned out to be a decent pick, right? Late in the first round. He was, someone who they took some flack for selecting, and he obviously is going to be a player, it feels like, at least. So like there are some success stories. And Grabankin, he flashed a little bit. He ended up being part of a trade to bring in Scott Laughton. But ultimately, you look at the last 6 years, Dave. I'm looking at the last 6 drafts for the Maple Leafs. They have one player that has made an impact on this team in the last 6 years. One player. There's a problem. Matthew Nyes is that only player, by the way.
Yeah.
Outside of Matthew Nyes, no one else has made any impact in the last 6 years with the Maple Leafs. So, yeah, I think that's a problem. I think you look at what they've done maybe last year. You like Ben Danford, Victor Johansson. I've heard some pretty good things about, the development. The development that he had last year. He might be a player, a guy they took in the 4th round last season. Tennis, Luke Cobbler, they took in the second round with their first pick this year. Tyler Hopkins got some good reviews as well when he was at camp. We've heard a lot of good things about Noah Chadwick, who was also part of the Easton Cowan draft. He was a captain with the Lethbridge Hurricanes. He's going to make his way to the AHL this year. So there are some guys who might start to be on their way. But, I mean, you go 6 years, virtually no success outside of Matthew Nyes. You're not going to get a strong grade from me. I mean, a 2 may be a little generous, to be honest with you, but for the scouting at least, scouting Nye, scouting Cowan, Chadwick as a late pick there. Grabenk and Hildeby have played games for them as 4th and 5th round picks. Maybe this Johansson kid turns into something. I'll give them a 2 since the scouting is there, but the development has been god awful, horrendous, and they really haven't had a lot of guys, burst through the AHL and compete either. Like outside of Bobby McMahon, there's not a lot of success stories coming through.
We thought Alex Steves could have been one of those other ones, and that didn't work out.
Right? There's a number of guys who you could put in that category that they were never able to really develop into anything. And Nick Abruzzese is another one of those guys. And, they've had a couple of college free agents that have been around for a couple of years and never really develop into anything. So we'll see. There's obviously some hope for the last couple of years. It's too early to say whether or not those guys were good or bad draft classes, obviously. I will say this was the first draft class with a new kind of man in tow also. Yeah. So there is a little bit, there's been some change with the draft history. So that maybe gives you confidence that they brought in, a new head of draft after 6 years of nothing, essentially. So maybe that gives you slight confidence, but I can't go more than a 2, I don't think.
That's fair. Like it has not been good enough. That's why I thought a 3 because of the success of Matthew Nyes, and many teams probably would have taken Matthew Nyes a lot earlier. I thought Fraser Minton, before he got traded, could have been a guy that we could have seen play an everyday role this year. So, but yeah, I other than those 2, I have like Easton Cow maybe is the only other one I can see having an immediate future on this team.
Yeah, like Nick Moldenauer did nothing. Like I don't think Lazowski ended up getting another contract. Ty Voigt's done nothing. You go to the 2020 class. We talked about that a week ago. Horrendous. Like Irvinen, Niemela, Villanova, Vchinikov, Mietnin, Joe Miller, John Fusco, Wyatt Shingle, Ryan Tverberg. None of those guys really amounted to anything, right? Mikhail Abramov, Mikko Kokkonen, Nick Abruzzese did nothing from the 2019 class. Okay, Robertson, sure, but even like Nicky Bobby, a little more bark than bite. There hasn't been much from Nick Robertson. He may not be here all that long either, and that so there's just not a whole lot of success stories when it comes to the Maple Leafs draft picks. But I think a 2 is appropriate.
Mm-hmm. All right, trading. How do you feel about Brad Treliving as his ability to make a deal?
I'm debating. I think a 4. I think a 4 could be appropriate. No, like where are you at?
Like he hasn't swung and made a massive deal, right? Like not like the ones he made in Calgary.
Oh, where right? like Matt Tkachuk for
like the Tkachuk deal
for Huberdeau.
Like we haven't seen him make that big move, but maybe at the same time, it's kind of good that
trading away Mitch Marner, like getting something out of Marner, I think was pretty big. No.
Oh, I think so too, considering the circumstances and like how that kind of turned into, he's gone, to, they might actually get something, even though if people were trying to grade that trade, you have to put the asterisk of what the situation behind the trade was as well. Mm-hmm. So, like to me, I'm not low on his ability to trade. I think, people think the Scott Laughton deal wasn't a good deal. I think that's kind of unfair. I think that what they gave up, they had to give more to get the retention on the salary. Same with the Brandon Carlo, they had to get the retention on that. But he is trying to find other ways to get deals done rather than just constantly having to trade a first round pick. Now, did he trade a first round pick? He has, because you have to give up something to get something. But he's also trying to unload some of those prospects that, like, I'm not going to lose sleep over losing a Fraser Minton or a Grabenkin. Like, those guys Yeah, like Minton, a lot of people liked what he brought, but his ceiling is not as high, right? You rather get the Brandon Carlo, who you know is going to be a top 4 defenseman for you. Scott
Yeah.
Laughton, we had kind of hoped a little bit more from him, and maybe it's possible that there could be more for him. We have to kind of see what his role is going to be this year. But
We got 2 years of both of those guys,
yeah,
right? 2 kicks at the can, 2 cracks at it, which I don't think many people, those who were big haters on the deal, I don't think put a lot of weight into that, but
no,
I do. Like, getting guys with term and also getting retention on it. Like, Laughton, 50% retention. You're getting Laughton at a $1.5 million this year. Pretty solid deal. Brandon Carlo, 15% retention. I think you're getting him for like 3.6 or 3.8. Pretty solid for a top 4 guy. So they paid a pretty penny, I think, to make it happen. But considering where the Maple Leafs are, I do still view them as like necessary moves. So he was willing to stomach making that move to make the team better. And I think that it did make the team better. And unlike the trades from the previous regime, they were trading for rentals all the time and getting nothing out of them, right? The Felinos, the Ryan O'Reillys, right? At least Laughton and Carlo, you get that second year. You get that second opportunity to win with them. I think that's valuable.
I do too. And I mean, I'll even give it a guaranteed 4 because he was actually able to trade Ryan Reeves for an NHL body.
Yeah, yeah. He actually got an NHL body for Ryan Reeves. He actually was somehow able to get a third and a sixth for Timothy Liljegren after his value had completely run out. So we thought he made some decent trades. He has made some pretty good moves over the course of his time here. Nothing that was like staggering, obviously. Like I still personally thought that getting Nicolas Waugh in as that Mitch Marner deal was pretty solid, considering that he was going to walk for nothing, get nothing out of it. To get a solid third line center out of the trade, out of the deal, I thought was pretty good. So, yeah, I think a 3 or 4 I'm good with. If you want to lock in 4, I think we can make that work. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we've got 2 more. Got to get to his free agent skills and the vision of the team moving forward. That's next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast.
Today's edition of Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire somebody yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and helps you find the right candidates fast and helps you reach them faster. If you're somebody who doesn't want that setback every day because you don't have the right person for that job and you know that right hire is critical, it's exactly why you need to use Indeed sponsored jobs. It does come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. So now you can speed up your hiring process with the $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/locked-on right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you. We continue our front office confidence rankings, taking a look at the Maple Leafs front office and how we feel about the job that Brad Treliving and company has been doing with this organization. So we continue with our list here, and we take a look at free agency, I believe, is next on our list. So, Dave, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not all that confident, 5 being very confident, where are you at when it comes to Brad Treliving and his skills within free agency?
I want to go with a 4 for it. The Anthony Stolarz deal, that was a great move, great value for that. PTO for Steven Lorentz that eventually turned into a pretty solid fourth liner for you throughout the year. thought that was a good deal. I guess, well, technically Max Domi was re-signed, so that what he was signed and re-signed. I thought, I know he hasn't exactly lived up to this contract, but I think he's provided some value, in your lineup. But like he hasn't made the big move, right? That's the only thing is like we thought maybe with the cap space he had, maybe he can try to go get a guy like, Brad Marchand. Some people thought maybe if Aaron Ekblad got to the open market.
But then you can't fault him for
no, I don't fault him at all.
A guy that didn't get there.
Right. Well, it's more so like it just felt like the Leafs were never in on. We never heard like they were close to signing some of the other top free agent guys, right? To me, I don't fault them too much on that. It's just like it feels like they've had a hard time finding, a guy in free agency that can be an impact, like a true impact player, other than like the Stolarz one.
I'm gonna push back on that, Dave. I'm gonna push back on that.
Okay, wait. Tanev was also really good too.
Yes,
I'll give him a high grade on the Tanev deal. He had to pay
all term on it. Yeah, but OEL is also a solid pickup.
He was. He is a solid player. I'm just a little concerned maybe about the next couple of years on that deal. Like he had to give a little more term to get these guys, and these are guys who are a bit older. But OEL, like I can't fault him for that deal. I think OEL's worked out pretty good. Like it's hard to get defensemen. He's redone the blue line. It's just like, the Tanev deal, love the player, the contract, I'm sure that's going to handle itself out down the road, depending on how long he is going to be playing for. But like, it just felt like sometimes the Leafs just need that. I don't know. And maybe because it just hasn't really been there. And that's probably my beef. It's not really with Treliving. It's just that free agency hasn't really brought the, the sizzle that I thought it would with the cap going up.
So what'd you give him? What are you giving him? What are you thinking?
I think now that I'll factor in the Tanev deal, I'll give him a 4 because the Stolarz and Tanev deal were pretty, like, to get those two guys in under $7 million, or it's actually exactly at $7 million.
Yeah,
pretty good value.
Yeah, there's some misses as well, right? Ryan Reeves, we talked about that one ad nauseum of how horrible of a free agent signing that one was. But outside of that, like, there hasn't been a lot of misses. Like Max Domi, you can say what you want, as he paid a little higher than you want. Technically, that was a re-signing, like you mentioned. His first deal was pretty solid with the Maple Leafs, I thought. Tyler Bertuzzi, I thought he was worth, the money that he was paid in his 1 year service here in Toronto. But pretty much, I think
he hasn't like given really bad term to a bad player. He didn't do the Chandler Stevenson deal that Seattle did.
No, right? He did not. No, he did not. And so like I think in terms of like free agency specifically, the outside of the Ryan Reeves deal, I think they've all worked out. Or haven't hamstringed the team. They haven't been disastrous for the club, in ways that, like, last year in Nashville, they went all in on Jonathan Marchessault and Steven Stamkos and Brady Shea. Those guys did not perform up to par. And now all of a sudden you look at their contract efficiencies and they're very low if you look at our episode from yesterday. So the Leafs don't have a lot of those blunders, free agency blunders. I don't fault him for not going after top talent. I don't think there's a lot of guys who really were out there that made a lot of sense for the Leafs. So I think I can roll the 4 also for free agency. Let's give him a 4 on that one. Overall vision, the vision of the group. Of the front office, where are you at with them? Scale 1 to 5.
I'm actually very confident.
Yeah, seems like they have a vision, and it mirrors what works in the NHL, right? You look at the last few Stanley Cup champions; And it seems as though size, speed with skill can win in the postseason. And guys who can play a certain way, play downhill, play simple, go to the net, defend, have good timely goaltending. That's what wins games. And that seems to be kind of what the Maple Leafs are trying to build right now and the identity that they're trying to build within the team. I'm a 5 on the vision of this club.
Yeah, like you look at the Craig Berube hire and what that signified in terms of, still having that, like going a little bit with that old school approach, right? As much as we hated the way that the postseason has ended, you look at, they took Florida 7 games. They gave Florida the toughest push, right?
Mm-hmm.
As much as Matthew Tkachuk says it wasn't the hardest series he's played in out of that playoffs, but like, I think with Brendan Shanahan gone too, there's less of this desire to hold on to the Shanna plan now. They can, right? Brad Treliving doesn't have to worry about appeasing Shanahan's vision. He can do the Brad Treliving vision, right?
Right.
And we saw a bit of that with the Marner stuff. Okay, Mitch, you don't want to be here. We'll see what else we can do. He tried the Mikko Rantanen deal. He tried to go out and get that other guy that could have been a factor for them, but Marner said no. Fair. Okay. He the way he's handled it too, right? I think that's important too, is he's not making it seem like the Leafs have been slated or he hasn't really said anything in that regard too. I think he's just goes about his business. Drafting wasn't going well. Let's bring a guy from a team who's done some really good things with drafting, right? Yeah. Like understanding that there's things that aren't working. Let's go and fix it.
Yep, and that's exactly what they've been able to do. Whether it's again the drafting, the goaltending, the blue line. I do expect by free agent or by the trade deadline, they'll fix that Marner hole. I think that'll be a player that they could they'll go and they'll get someone. Someone's going to be added to that group by the deadline that can, be an impact player come playoff time. I do feel strongly that he'll be able to make that happen. Because I think he believes that there's like it's a short window right now with the Maple Leafs. You get 3 years to win here, as long as you've got Matthews under contract for another 3 years. There's your window. So whatever you're doing, it's to win over the next 3 seasons, and I feel like they're on the right path. They have cap space; they'll be able to accrue more space because of the cap that they have right now. Yeah, I feel okay about the vision of the team, the direction of the team, the identity of the team moving forward. I am curious to see what it looks like without Marner. It is definitely going to be different. But Marner didn't want to be here, and the Maple Leafs said, "Fine, we don't want you here then. Adios." And I kind of appreciate that. They didn't grovel, didn't seem like there was much groveling to be done. Because you don't want to be here. We're giving you plenty of opportunity, giving you plenty contract offers. You don't want to be here. All right, we're gonna hammer out a deal, sign and trade. We'll bring in Nicolas Roy, who seems pretty stoked to be a Maple Leaf. So
there are some comments that we can add to this. What was the best decision made by this front office?
The best decision made by this front office. Like the best signing, trade, like what is I'm
decision? For me, it would be like spreading the wealth, right? Understanding that other areas need to have a focus, and you can't just pay.
Yeah. Well, here's the best decision that they made actually, and I firmly believe this. Craig Berube. I think hiring Craig Berube was a great decision. That's just the vision of knowing what you want a team to look like and play like, and finding the guy who can lead those guys to do that. We saw lots of pockets of Craig Berube hockey being played. They grabbed more guys who can play Craig Berube hockey over the offseason. I think we'll see a little bit more of that kind of, hard-nosed north-south game this season. To me, it's a winning brand of hockey. It's a playoff brand of hockey. So to me, that might be one of the bigger decisions that this front office has made, is entrusting in Berube to be the guy to lead them.
Worst decision made by this front office.
Oh, Ryan Reeves, easy.
Signing, I'll put it in all caps too.
Yeah.
So you're signing Ryan Reeves.
Yeah. That one was questionable at the time and still questionable today. Unless Henry Thurm turns into a piece, then obviously it all worked out for the Maple Leafs. But yeah, that one was a head scratcher the entire way. Also, the copious amounts of no trade clauses that have been handed out to these guys. That could also be in there too.
I'll add that in.
Yeah, like giving Camp a no trade clause. That was this front office, technically. Brad Treliving was the GM when that happened. That's up there. I think didn't Domi got a modified no trade as well when he signed his extension here. Yarncroc was not.
No, Yarncroc was Dubas.
McCabe got a no trade. Tanev got a no movement clause. OEL got a modified no trade clause. So it seems like everyone that they brought in got a no trade. Even Anthony Stolarz. They gave Anthony Stolarz a no trade clause last summer. The guy, okay, sure. Like, that's what it is. Being so handing out NTCs like it's candy. Unbelievable. But yeah, that would also qualify as some of the worst decisions that they've made.
It's fair.
Anything else, or have we completed our survey?
Survey has been submitted.
It's been submitted. So usually they curate all of the submissions for about a week or so, and then usually within a couple of weeks we'll get the results back, and we can share with you guys, the listeners, the viewers of the pod, exactly not only what the fan base thinks of the Maple Leafs front office, but also what the public thinks of the Maple Leafs front office moving forward. I suspect they'll be much higher than 30th in the NHL like they were last year after this exercise.
I really do hope that they can get out of 30th.
Yeah, they'll definitely be higher than Pittsburgh's Kyle Dubas's organization, who I believe was like 28th or 29th last year. So they'll at least leapfrog doobie-doo, I believe. All right, buddy. We'll leave it there. Good stuff as always. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at _Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys on Friday. We're taking a look at the Locked On NHL's top 100 list. Which 5 Maple Leafs could make the case to crack the top 100? That's the Friday 5 on Friday show. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.